Welcome to the deep dive. We are cutting straight through to the knowledge that matters, and today we've got a really powerful source in our sights, an ancient poetic text. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts from Isaiah chapter 53.
hmm
Now, this chapter, it's foundational, really influential literature. It describes this single figure in, well, startling ways, often contradictory even.
Yeah.
Our mission today is a deep literary analysis. We want to track the narrative, understand the imagery, which is quite striking, and sort of figure out the role of this figure in the poetry itself.
And it's unique, because it starts by admitting just how tough the message is.
Right.
It immediately flags resistance, asking who has believed what he has heard from us.
Hmm.
So the text signals right away that the truth about this figure, it's counterintuitive. It needs like a special revelation to get past that initial skepticism, that disbelief.
Okay, so let's unpack that initial presentation.
Yeah.
The first part of the text, it really sets up this profile of low status obscurity, rejection, basically.
Yeah.
When the text introduces him, what kind of imagery does it use for his origins?
Well, it deliberately undercuts any expectation of, grandeur
Hmm.
or immediate power.
Okay.
He says he grew up like a young plant and like a root out of dry ground. That imagery is really crucial.
A root suggests permanence, maybe?
Yeah.
Foundation?
Exactly. A root implies something foundational.
Yeah.
But dry ground, well, that suggests struggle, doesn't it? Lack of nourishment, no visible strength.
So foundational, but totally unremarkable on the surface.
Precisely. Unremarkable. The key takeaway from that image is that his physical appearance actively discouraged people. They didn't recognize his significance. He wasn't supposed to look like a hero.
Right.
And the text makes this explicit. It says he had no form or majesty that we should look at him,
Mm-hmm.
and no beauty that we should desire him. Just lacked all those conventional markers of status or leadership that people would normally look for.
And because he lacked that visible authority, his experience was one of deep social isolation.
Yeah, completely.
The passage calls him despised and rejected by men, defines him as a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief.
hmm
The rejection was so total, it says people literally hid their faces from him. They esteemed him not.
And this sets up that profound contrast, the
Yeah.
one that really drives the whole chapter.
Okay.
You've got this figure who is vital a root, yet he's entirely dismissed, misunderstood, underestimated by, well, everyone watching. He's characterized by this deep affliction, but the poem's movement,
Mhm.
it's all about revealing the reason for it.
That leads us perfectly to the core then. Section 2. Having set up the low status, the suffering. How does the text pivot? How does it introduce this, frankly, shocking purpose behind his pain?
Okay, the pivot happens around verse 4. That's where the text addresses and corrects the observer's first assumption.
Which was?
Well, the initial judgment, the common view, was that his suffering meant he was being divinely punished. They esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted.
So they looked at his pain and just assumed guilt, his own guilt.
Exactly, judging by appearance. They thought he was paying for his own sins. But the text instantly refutes that.
How? What's the correction? It seems pretty fundamental.
It uses this emphatic word, surely. It acts like a powerful reversal. It says, surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows.
Our griefs, our sorrows.
Yes, and that's where the concept of substitution comes in. It's the foundational mechanism of the whole chapter. He's not bearing his own burden. He's carrying the burdens of the observers, of us.
Wow, okay.
And then the passage escalates. It details these violent sacrificial actions and the restoration that comes out of it for the community. He was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. The language shows this direct exchange. His suffering leads to their benefit.
Then what did the observers gain? What was the result?
The gains are huge. Immediate. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace. And with his wounds we are healed. That idea of chastisement, the suffering meant for us, the observers being placed on him to achieve peace. That's incredibly powerful. It's like a transaction. His pain guarantees our restoration.
And the text makes it clear the community wasn't just some innocent bystander, right?
Yeah.
It highlights our collective failure.
Oh, absolutely. There's that really vivid imagery. All we, like sheep, have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way.
We've all gone off course.
That's the picture. And that collective drift, that turning away, is why the substitution has to happen. The divine action is described as definitive. It transfers the consequence. The Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
Laid on him.
Yes, that verse just seals the deal on the mechanism. It's purposeful. A deliberate transfer of collective guilt onto this innocent servant.
Okay, so moving past the substitution itself, let's look at the way he suffered. Section 3. It seems characterized by, well, passivity and profound injustice.
Yes, very much so.
When he's taken, what's the most striking thing about how he behaves?
It's his absolute total silence.
Yeah. Silence.
Yeah, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. And the silence is reinforced with these two really compelling passive analogies. He's like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shears is silent. This silence, it's not presented as weakness, but almost as a kind of perfect compliance, a necessary part of the sacrifice.
Even as he's taken away by oppression and judgment, the text seems to suggest that the people watching his trial, his death, they just didn't get it.
No, they didn't grasp the magnitude, didn't understand the purpose.
Yeah.
Exactly. The text asks, sort of rhetorically, as for his generation who consider that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people, his real purpose, the sacrificial one, was hidden from them, or maybe ignored by those who just saw the outward stuff, the unjust events.
And then focusing on his death, the burial detail is fascinating. It says they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death.
Right?
Why that strange pairing? Wicked and rich man, what's that telling us?
Well, it seems to highlight the chaotic, maybe paradoxical circumstances of his end. He died publicly, like a criminal, alongside transgressors.
Okay.
But then he's buried in a place usually reserved for honor, or at least wealth. A rich man's tomb. His death sort of breaks conventional categories.
Yeah.
He's grouped with the lowest, yet gets the burial of someone significant.
And the reason this whole substitution idea works, the reason it's effective, hinges entirely on what the text says about his character, doesn't it? Despite this unjust end.
Absolutely. His innocence is the prerequisite. It's what makes the transfer of guilt possible.
Right.
The text confirms it explicitly.
Yeah.
Although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth, his moral perfection is kind of the necessary fuel for that engine of substitution we talked about earlier.
So, okay, we've tracked him. Obscurity, rejection, substitution, silent and innocent death. The final section, verses 10 to 12, deals with the divine angle, the consequences. Wasn't just human actions, was it? The text reveals this hidden, higher motive behind the suffering. What was the ultimate driving force?
It pulls back the curtain, reveals divine intention. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief.
Wow, the will of the Lord.
Yes. It emphasizes that the suffering wasn't random. It wasn't just pointless cruelty. It was a planned, incredibly painful step toward a bigger predetermined goal.
And immediately after saying God willed this crushing, the text shifts to reward. Death is definitely not the end of the story here.
Not at all.
What specific rewards does he get? It says, when his soul makes an offering for guilt. What follows?
Rewards are all about continuance and success. He shall see his offspring, meaning legacy. He shall prolong his days despite dying.
Okay.
And the central outcome. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. He moves from being cut off, seemingly defeated, to ensuring his legacy and the success of the whole divine plan.
That really is the ultimate paradox, isn't it? Pours out his soul to death, yet prolongs his days.
It is.
What about his knowledge? What's the final purpose of the knowledge gained through all this?
The text links his suffering and future success directly. It says, out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied.
Satisfied after all that.
Yes. And critically, by his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous.
Ah, so his knowledge does something for others.
And he shall bear their iniquities. His perfect knowledge, gained through suffering, becomes the very mechanism used to grant righteousness to many others. He knows what substitution costs, and that knowledge justifies.
Which brings us to the climax, the summary of why he gets this dramatic reward. The text lists his achievements. Poured out his soul to death, was numbered with the transgressors, he bore the sin of many. What's the final action that earns him this ultimate reward? Dividing the portion with the many and the spoil with the strong.
It concludes with his final ongoing act. He makes intercession for the transgressors.
Intercession, so pleading for them.
Pleading for them. He earns his ultimate triumph sharing the spoils, the portion of the strong. Because even after everything, even in his exalted state, he continues to advocate, to speak on behalf of the very people who rejected him, the transgressors. His service continues.
So if we try to synthesize this whole narrative arc for you, the listener, we've watched this really profound literary journey.
Mm-hmm.
The figure moves from being this obscured, low-status root out of dry ground,
Yeah.
to becoming the absolute center of substitutionary suffering. He endures this silent, innocent death, and then achieves complete divine vindication, reward.
Right.
The narrative power comes entirely from that paradox, doesn't it? Weakness is the path to strength. Suffering leads directly to, well, ultimate satisfaction.
Yeah, the whole chapter is built on shifting the observer's view. Your view, really.
How so?
It forces you, the reader, to move past that initial assumption that suffering must mean personal punishment, God's anger at the sufferer.
Right, the smitten by God idea.
Exactly. To move from that to the revealed truth.
Mm-hmm.
That this suffering was, by divine design, entirely selfless. It was for the failures of the entire community. That reversal of judgment, that's the deepest literary insight here, I think.
And the text leaves us with a really provocative final thought, built right on that ultimate role he fulfills. He makes intercession for the transgressors.
Still acting for them.
But which raises a final question for you to think about. When a divine plan relies so heavily on intercession, on someone pleading on behalf of others, the transgressors, how does that fundamentally reshape the whole dynamic? The tension between strict justice and, well, profound mercy.
That's a good question.
Something to chew on as you continue your own journey of learning. Thanks for diving deep with us today.